Welcome to Audit Archive, where we run you through some of the most questionable and rather atrocious police encounters. Today, we're looking at a case where a tyrannical police officer first used excessive force to detain a suspect, and then arrested an auditor for simply recording it and asking questions. We're about to expose a lot of hypocrisy here. On May 16, 2023, the Yuma Police Department received a 911 call complaining about a subject potentially trespassing on private property. The caller gave dispatchers the subject's description, and Officer Cannell was advised to respond immediately. The bodycam footage of this encounter was released by the department with some briefing to seemingly explain the ordeal. But the thing is, the footage is edited and filled with a lot of lies and inaccuracies, all of which we will clear out. Let's start with the footage.
Hi, I'm Chief Garrity with the Yuma Police Department. We have been recently made aware of a video that is circulating on social media in reference to an event that occurred in May of this year. In full transparency, we at the police department are going to be releasing the full body camera, and Sergeant Franklin will be walking you through the events that occurred that evening.
On May 16, 2023, at approximately 7:37 p.m., a Yuma police officer was attempting to detain a suspect in reference to a trespass call. It's important to note that the body-worn camera does not capture everything the officer sees, and the officer does not see everything the body-worn camera captures. When activated, both audio and video turn on. The body-worn camera has a buffer of video without audio for 30 seconds prior to activation. This feature is designed to capture incidents that happen suddenly where an officer does not immediately activate the camera. The first video you're going to watch is from the officer who was dispatched to the incident reference a trespass.
Hey, come here, man. I'm gonna tell you one more time, stop right there. Because I'm investigating a crime, it was a trespass. Get over here, stop right now. Show me both your hands and stop. Stop!
For what reason?
Because I told you to.
What good reason? No. For what reason?
The officer's video was inadvertently shut off during the struggle with the suspect. When it was safe to do so, the officer reactivated his video.
Put your hands behind your back. We're done.
For what reason?
I told you to.
No, that's not a good reason.
Stop!
You have not told me what I'm arrested for.
You're not under arrest. You're detained. There's a difference.
Detained for what reason? No,
I told you to stop.
You put me under arrest right now.
As seen in the footage, the victim positively identified the subject who was accused of trespassing, so Officer Cannell approached him and asked him to stop. The briefing mentioned that since the victim identified the subject, it gave the officer sufficient reasonable suspicion to detain him. This was indeed true. If the officer has reasonable suspicion, that is, any reasonable person would suspect that a crime was being committed, had been committed, or was going to be committed, you may be detained. So we can agree that Officer Cannell was justified in detaining the suspect. However, the issue arises when we realize that the suspect was actually never told that he was being detained until he was placed in handcuffs. Put simply, Officer Cannell approached the man, immediately shouted orders at him asking him to stop and put his hands in plain view, then got even closer to grab him from behind and forcibly restrain him. Judging by this, we may be able to argue that the suspect's resistance to such a vague detainment might as well be justified. But this is where things got out of hand. Lucas Mullican, a 34-year-old freelance journalist and professional videographer, along with a female accomplice, were around the city working on a story about migrants when they witnessed the scuffle take place. When Mr. Mullican saw police approach the subject sitting on the street, he immediately started recording on his mobile phone and got closer to capture the ordeal. Let's see how the briefing depicted the situation.
The officer was actively struggling with the suspect, attempting to detain him, when a male and female approached and started filming with cell phones. The male and female subjects were flanked on either side of the officer, and the male subject started to inject himself into the incident by asking the officer questions. The officer, while struggling with the suspect, told the male subject at least 7 times to back up. For approximately 5 minutes, the officer had to deal with a resisting suspect and attempt to watch two unknown subjects who continued to encroach into the officer's direct space. The officer never told them to stop recording, but had to continue to tell them to move back.
Note how the phrase inject himself is used to describe Mr. Mulliken approaching the scene and recording the ordeal. According to the briefing, Mr. Mulliken's specific act of questioning the officer was mainly what injected him into the incident. Let's take a look at the bodycam footage now. Note that the notes on the video are placed by the Yuma Police Department. They're essentially being used to actively justify Officer Cannell's actions.
That is against the rules. He's not even told me. He just jumped me. Help! 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 Get the off me, sir! You have not told me what the is going on.
Okay. You're detained for trespassing.
For what? Trespassing where?
Yes, on his property.
On the sidewalk.
Okay. Well,
Case, this is crime. You're not detaining anybody.
you're detained.
You are hurting me for
Okay.
no reason.
Well,
What
stop
have I
resisting.
done? What have I done? What have I done?
3433. Back up.
What have I
Hey,
done?
back up.
Back
up. Go
What
over
have
there.
I done?
I'll give you everything. Back up.
What
Back
have
up
I
right now.
done?
6 feet, you know the law.
Back up.
Am I interfering with your investigation?
Yes.
How?
Back up.
How?
He just jumped me. He just jumped me
I
and
saw
said,
it. He's been
you
crazy.
stop right now. Or else. Now I'm under arrest and I have done nothing wrong.
You're not under arrest. You're detained.
Thank
You
you. Oh,
detained
yeah?
someone and wrestling to the ground.
Detained?
Why? Because he's not listening to me.
No, that's not the option. What
Yes,
were you
it is.
arresting him for?
Why
Yeah,
not?
where's
He's
my-
not under arrest. He's
Why were
detained.
you tackling him and detaining him?
Because he's refusing to comply with the city command.
What was the command?
Command was to stop.
Command to stop what?
To stop so I can talk to him.
No, that's not you.
Now there are two major points worth highlighting after watching this footage. First and foremost, we have a pretty significant misconception when it comes to the law. Mr. Mulliken stated that he was within his rights to be 6 feet away and do whatever he wanted to since it didn't constitute any form of interference with law enforcement. This was partially true, but there's actually no law that stipulates a minimum distance between officers and members of the public. Bear in mind that courts consider recording police as your legal right under the First Amendment. This is because the First Amendment includes the right to freely discuss our government, freedom of the press, and public access to information. The courts have decided that freedom of the press applies to citizens just as it does professional journalists. Another thing to note is that a police officer can legally order you to stop recording if it is interfering with their job. If you stand too close or get in the way of a police situation, they can order you to stop filming or, worst case scenario, arrest you for obstruction of justice. The key word is interfering. So as long as you aren't interfering with their job, you can be as close or as distant as you wish, though there's certainly a reasonable distance everyone should keep. In this case, there's no way one could argue that Mr. Mulliken was too close for comfort. He was certainly far enough away to prevent any disruption. He was simply exercising his right to record and hold law enforcement accountable. Secondly, if you paid close attention to Officer Cannell's words, he basically admitted that he physically detained the subject on the ground just because he didn't stop and talk to him. In other words, he grabbed the subject on a public sidewalk, threw him to the ground, and handcuffed him just because he didn't stop.
Did you suspect him of committing a crime?
Yes, I did.
What was the crime?
Give me back my hat.
What was
Get
the
your
crime?
hat. Come on, let's go.
No.
Get my
Officer, one more
sunglasses.
time. What's your badge number?
Come on.
I'm not going with you because you did not do this lawfully.
What did I do?
Get the f***ing
You need to back up right now. Go over to the corner. I'm done with you.
Not do this
I'll talk
lawfully.
to you in a sec.
Can. I'll be right
Go.
here waiting for you. 6 feet is the
Get
law,
over here.
officer. I'm a
Okay,
journalist.
you're
You're welcome to
interfering.
tongue.
Oh, who the f*** do you think you are? Officer, what the f*** name?
Now you're resisting.
No, I'm not.
Stop.
Is that resistance? I'm sorry, he hasn't been charged with a crime.
I have nothing to do with crime.
Look, why
You
don't you
can
call your
jump my
captain over
ass.
here? Because
Start
we're going to have a
after the phone.
discussion. Just call for some
What's
help.
your officer's name? What is your badge number and officer's name? Sir,
Why
you
aren't
don't
you?
give me
I'm sorry, why
my
aren't you
name.
calling for backup? Why aren't you having someone come over and help you if this is a big deal?
No, he didn't.
12. Can I get some
This
step up,
man
please?
is accusing me of something apparently.
Come on.
He owes me. My hat, please. My hat, please.
4th Avenue, 5th Street.
Off me.
We can do this all day, man.
Get off me.
Stop.
I got your hat. Don't worry.
Now you're assaulting me. Stop
No,
it.
you insulted me.
Come on.
Let me stand up for my own rights.
Let's go.
You know what you've done is wrong. You're not going to object.
Fine. Have a seat. Let's sit right here.
Yeah, thank you. I need to know why you're just going to abduct me.
Okay, you need to back up. You need to back up.
6 feet.
I was walking down the road. He said, stop. And I said, what for? He says, you're doing a crime. And I said, no, I didn't. And he jumped my ass. Now I'm here.
The next video you're about to see is from the perspective of the officer who arrested the person who refused to back up.
Let go.
You guys have to tell me what you're doing.
Get back.
Let go, man. It's
Get
6
back.
feet. It's 6 feet. Let go.
Get
Excuse
back.
me.
Get back.
Excuse me.
Get back. Get
It's
back.
6 feet. Excuse me.
Get out of the sir.
I have not done anything wrong.
Stay there.
As if the encounter wasn't already ridiculous enough, Officer James Bache, who arrived as backup, immediately ordered Mr. Mulliken to step away, once again violating his constitutional rights, and then went as far as to violently restrain him, throw him to the ground, and tell him to stay right there in a shameless, ego-driven demeanor. At this point, we already know that Mr. Mulliken was not detained, not arrested, and certainly not suspected of a crime. This basically meant that the use of force employed by Officer Bache was not only excessive, but utterly unlawful. According to Yuma Police Department's Policy and Procedures, Section 2.25, Use of Force, personnel will respond with an amount of force that is objectively reasonable based on the suspect's actions, the officer's perceived dangers, and the totality of circumstances presented or known at the moment the force was applied. All use of force will be in accordance with the law, agency direction, and with the purpose of effecting lawful objectives. Plus, the following is a list of factors and circumstances that are considered by the Yuma police officers when using force. The severity of the crime, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others, whether the suspect is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight, age, size, ability, and physical conditioning of the suspects versus that of the officers, weapon and/or dangerous instrument, duration of the altercation between suspects and the officers, whether additional backup is readily available. Judging by all these factors, we can confidently conclude that Officer Bache was not justified in his use of force whatsoever. Interestingly, the briefing described this ordeal pretty differently. Let's hear it.
The male subject was told again by a different officer to back up. When he failed to do so, the officer assisted him in backing up and told him to stay. The male subject got up, again approached the officer, and then the subject was arrested. The subject also struggled with that officer. He was placed into handcuffs and then detained in a police car.
You heard that right. The briefing claimed that Officer Bache assisted, yes, assisted Mr. Mulliken in backing up. Not grab him and throw him to the ground, but assist him in backing up. Luckily, we have footage from Mr. Mulliken's mobile phone, which gives us a different angle of the assault and the arrest. Let's take a look.
Assaulting me. Stop.
No, you insulted me.
Come on.
Let me stand up for my own rights.
Let's go.
No, what is wrong? You're not going to abduct me.
Have a seat. Sit right here.
Yeah, thank you. I need to know why you're just going to abduct me.
You need to back up.
6
You need
feet.
to back up.
6 feet.
I was walking down the road. He said, stop. And I said, what for? He says, you're doing a crime. And I said, no, I didn't. And he jumped my ass. Now I'm here. Yeah. But he won't tell the truth either. Because
He hasn't said he's detained him under investigation anyway.
you can't detain and arrest at the same time.
Wait, I've already talked to them.
What's going on?
We need to get him to my car.
Okay.
I'm here with you.
All right.
You know, let your legs out.
No, you've arrested me
legs out.
unlawfully.
Get your legs out.
You've arrested me unlawfully.
Legs out, buddy. Get your legs out.
For what reason? Look, you've arrested me unlawfully. We'll figure that out. No, you figure it out now before you arrest me. Nope. Take me to undisclosed location and then take me apart. Put me on your goddamn computer from vertical. I said nicely. Take my rights. What are you doing? You're just cut me?
I'm not gonna cut you, buddy.
No, what are you doing?
It's a pressure point.
No, dude.
I'm using Cobra's on. I'm going to apply pressure here. It's going to hurt.
Why are you trying to hurt me?
Because you have to let go.
Let go.
Let go, man.
You guys have to tell me
Let go.
what you're doing to me.
Let go, man.
It's 6 feet. It's 6 feet.
Let go.
Excuse me.
Get back.
Excuse me.
Get
It's
back.
6 feet. Why? Excuse me.
Get on the ground.
Sir, I have not done anything wrong.
Stay there.
What's your badge number, officer? Badge number, officer.
You're under arrest.
Why? Because. Excuse me. He's not. Sergeant. Sergeant. What's your badge number, officer? Badge number, officer.
You're under arrest.
Why?
Because
Excuse me. He's not.
failing
Sergeant.
to comply.
Sergeant. I've asked for his badge number.
failing to
Here. Sergeant. I've asked for his badge. Ow! I did nothing wrong. I'm a journalist. This is fucked
your hands
up.
behind your back. You're under arrest.
Sir, I am.
You're not going to stand on top of us
No,
while we're working.
I was.
Put your hand behind your back.
Okay, officer, let me
Relax,
let me
relax.
my phone, please.
Relax.
Please let me break. Let me set it down.
Relax.
I wasn't trying. You can ask the officer. I wasn't mean. I wasn't cursing at him.
Figure that out, buddy. You're not
Sir,
going to
please,
stand over the top
please,
of
no,
us while we
please.
work.
Can you please understand me? I
Dude,
wasn't.
loosen this hand up.
No, I'm sorry.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Look, please, you need to understand. I didn't do anything wrong.
No, you did. You absolutely did. Come on.
Sir, I need you
When
to.
I tell you to get back, you get back.
I did get
You're
back.
on top of us.
Look, officer, are you the
No,
sergeant?
I am.
I need you to understand. He told me to go back. I went back.
You didn't
I
get
was
back at
good.
all.
And then when I went back,
So
I
it's
asked
failure
him
to
for my
comply,
badge
Yuma
number,
City Code.
And he ran over and told me I'm being arrested.
You came back towards me.
Sir,
You're not going to walk back towards me when I tell you to get back,
I
okay?
understand. I wasn't.
No, you don't.
I wasn't.
If you understood, you wouldn't have done it.
Please ask the other officer if I was
Take you in the car.
Okay, I understand.
I'm going to figure out what's going on.
This car. Okay.
Then we'll go from there, okay?
Look, I need to let you know really quickly. Ask the other officer if I was a threat to him at all. I was giving him space, and I understand the guy was combatant. My dad was in law enforcement.
Figure this out, guy.
And I just was trying to provide accountability.
What's your name?
The reason, Lucas Mulligan. The reason,
Lucas.
Yes. One more thing. The only reason I pulled over.
I will talk to you, and we'll have a story, okay?
Okay, yes, sir. I mean, really quickly. The only reason I pulled over is because I saw this. I could not pay attention to the officer, and the officer tackled him and against the fence, and I just thought he had headphones in. Okay.
Okay, we'll figure this out, man.
Yes, sir. I apologize.
What's going on?
Okay.
We'll figure this out.
All right. Thanks.
All right. You figure this out, too? Yes, sir.
As we've just seen, Mr. Mulligan was placed under arrest in a violent manner yet again and secured in the backseat of a patrol vehicle. The sergeant on the scene, identified as Angulo, told Mr. Mulligan that he'd speak to him once they figured everything else out. Following this, Sergeant Angulo released Mr. Mulligan from handcuffs, but cited him for failure to comply with commands and resisting arrest. Officer Bache wrote a report detailing what happened with Mr. Mulligan. In it, he wrote that he got a call that Officer Cannell was fighting someone alone and that 3 people had surrounded him. He wrote that he wanted Mr. Mulligan to back away to focus on removing the sitting man from the fence. He described pushing Mulligan down after Mulligan refused to get back and arrested him when he stood back up. In fact, he wrote in his report that, "I wanted him far enough back so I would have time to respond if he came towards us." A few days later, in an interview with the Republic, Mr. Mulligan said he had sought and acquired representation from the First Amendment Clinic at the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law at Arizona State University. He explained that through the depositions in his case, officers told his lawyer that they had not received any training when it came to the public's right to report. Now let's watch the conclusion of the briefing made by the Yuma Police Department. Listen closely as the chief essentially proves that the department is hypocritical and incompetent.
We at the Yuma Police Department value our relationship with the community. We strive to be accountable and transparent as possible. While there is no defined distance for recording an incident, we understand the desire to do so.
Chief Thomas Garrity just stated that there's no defined distance for recording an incident, so clearly the Yuma Police Department is well aware of this fact. Now what we take away from this is since there's no defined distance, Officer Cannell basically wasn't justified in ordering Mr. Mulligan to back away, especially since he was not interfering at all.
When officers are faced with any situation, especially chaotic ones, they must be able to ensure everyone's safety. Again, there is no defined distance. We ask that you follow officers' directions as you may not be aware of all the context surrounding those interactions. This is to ensure everyone's safety. I again want to thank the community for their support of the Yuma Police Department as we strive to provide professional and compassionate services.
As of the date of this recording, no further updates have been made, and Mr. Mulliken has not shown any interest in further legal action against the Yuma Police Department. Be sure to check out our previous video, where we cover another outrageous police encounter